Hey everyone, this is Elenbaas from Nightlight Astrology, and today we are going to take another look at the upcoming lunar eclipse in the sign of Scorpio. This is another big eclipse right in the midst of eclipse season. The first one, which was at the last anaretic degree of Aries, was very intense. I've gotten a lot of powerful stories and feedback from all of you about it. We've done a little bit of previewing of this eclipse already. Today we're going to continue by looking at five powerful themes that tend to come up around full moons in Scorpio and especially lunar eclipses in Scorpio. And this lunar eclipse in particular, because it's with the south node of the moon, what does that look like? What kinds of archetypal themes can we expect to be dealing with, especially on an emotional and psychological level? That is to say, regardless of where it shows up in your life, what specific area, what kinds of psychological or inner experiences and themes are likely. And then along with that, my wife Ashley, who is a clinical herbalist, will be joining us to talk about a plant teacher that we have both been working with personally during this eclipse cycle, which has been amazing, and also that any of you could work with if you wanted to. This is also a way of us showing you a little bit about what our Roots and Spheres circle is like, which is not too late to join if you want to. So we'll talk a little bit about what that is and what we've been up to as well. So that is our agenda for today. As always, before we dive into it, don't forget to like and subscribe, share your comments. If you have ever used Black Cohosh, which is the plant teacher we'll be working with talking about today, we'd love to hear your stories as well, or any kinds of experiences you've had with lunar eclipses in Scorpio, which would also be great to hear about, or just Scorpio placements. Always love hearing your guys' wisdom. Transcripts of any of my daily talks, including this one, can be found on my website, nightlightastrology.com. I want to take you over there right now because, as you guys know, this is also enrollment season. My new class, Ancient Astrology for the Modern Mystic, a one-year course in ancient Hellenistic astrology, begins coming up here very shortly. If you go to the website and click on the courses tab, go to the first year course and scroll down, you'll learn all about it. It starts on June 11th. You can hear what alumni have had to say about it. There are 30 classes on the year, 2 to 3 hours each. They're all recorded, so you can attend live or listen to them later. We have a forum discussion staffed with tutors. You can ask questions throughout the year. I also have lots of bonus material that I provide for students, including breakout study sessions with our staff if you want a little extra help. So there's just a ton of support for you in this program so that you can get as much as you possibly can out of a deep, immersive year studying astrology. A lot of people start to practice after this program and practice for other people. Let me tell you that if you do, a handful of readings within a year of the course, it's going to have paid off the price of the course very quickly. Most people, honestly, who take this course will find that, if you do 10 readings for people outside of class or 15 readings outside of class over the course of your first year, you're going to have paid off the price of your learning and more. And most people who take this course with the intention of practicing for others are successful in doing so. A lot of people take the class just because they want to learn astrology, and that's a great reason to do so as well. It can just be like, if you want to learn yoga because it's great to have a yoga practice, study yoga. If you want to learn astrology because it's nice to have a little spiritual GPS program running, then study astrology. Anyway, at the bottom of the page, you'll find the payment options. Early bird payment saves you $500 off. There is a payment plan you can use as well. And then I really want to make sure that people know that we still have some tuition assistance spots available. So if you need help to make the program happen, for some reason, the class is beyond your price point because you are on a fixed budget, you're a single parent, whatever the case may be, we really want to make sure that people are not priced out of studying a sacred science. One of the instructions that ancient astrologers actually gave was that people who earnestly want to study astrology should not be prevented from doing so as long as their intention is sincere. I've always taken that to heart and always made sure that there are donation options. In fact, when it comes to readings, I think it should be the same way. And that's why you'll find that by the end of this year, early next year, we're going to be having a donation-based reading service for people so that people aren't priced out of readings as well. So that's a big part of the Nightlight mission, I guess you could say. Anyway, if you have any questions about the programs or want to join the course but want to ask some questions first, email us info@nightlightastrology.com. All right. Well, thank you guys for letting me promote the class. And I am very, very glad to welcome my wife, Ashley, to today's episode. It's really nice to have you here again to talk herbs and because I'm in love with you, as well as loving all of the wisdom that you have to share
Aw.
about plants. It's really nice to have you here.
Thank you so much. Yeah, no, it's like I just feel so blessed to be your partner and to be able to talk about these things together. And the astrology and the plants go together so beautifully, and especially right now, I think with everything that's going on. So I'm excited to talk about black cohosh and some of the things I've learned working with this plant, and then some teachings from my teachers that I think are really exciting and interesting to share.
Absolutely. I want to give most of the time today to hearing about black cohosh, a powerful plant ally that Ashley and I have both been personally working with in dieting during this eclipse cycle, and as well as covering some of the themes of the lunar eclipse that lead to an understanding of why this plant pairs so nicely with the lunation cycle. So I think what we'll do for starters is I'm going to go through 5 themes that come with a Scorpio lunar eclipse. Remember, this is a lunar eclipse with the south node. After I go through those, then what we're going to do is we're going to hear Ashley just drop some wisdom of black cohosh on us. And she's worked with black cohosh for a long time. She introduced me to black cohosh when we first were dating, before we were married. She was, she'd be feeding me all sorts of stuff for as long as I've known her. and black cohosh is one of my favorite. And I haven't worked with black cohosh for a long time, but when we get to talking about it, I will be glad, both of us will be glad to share just little anecdotes about how black cohosh has been working so far in this cycle. And we'll say more about what roots and spheres is too when we get there. But 5 themes that come with a Scorpio lunar eclipse first. The first one is catharsis. I want to actually read you guys the etymology of catharsis because I think it's really interesting. So here it is. A bodily purging, especially of the bowels, from Latinized form of Greek catharsis, purging or cleansing, from stem of katharian, I think that's how you pronounce it, to purify or purge, from katharos, pure, clean of dirt, clean, spotless, open, free, clear of shame or guilt.
Mm.
That's a really good one for Scorpio. Because a lunar eclipse in Scorpio with the south node is like scraping the grime off the bottom of a bucket that exists somewhere in the soul's past. And there's a feeling of breakthrough. People often associate catharsis with like a big emotional breakthrough, but I think it's nice to get into those etymological roots. Roots, by the way, are something that black cohosh loves to get into, so we'll talk more about that too. But cleaning or cleansing things that are dirty, or maybe they aren't dirty, but maybe we think they're dirty,
Mm.
like as in shame, getting into the roots of things that are uncomfortable for us to live with, but learning how to accept them. That's also catharsis, as much as cleaning off some literal blemish of something we've done wrong, or maybe a mistake that we made, or something that needs to be released because it's not serving us. Is as much as there is that, there's also with catharsis the idea that we're feeling guilty or ashamed of things, and we actually need to learn how to embrace them. That would also be cathartic. The releasing of shame in particular is cathartic. Number 2 is trauma and old patterns. This fits in a little bit in the same, it kind of comes along, dovetails nicely, I should say. But Scorpio lunar eclipses, remember, the moon was said to be the ruler of fortune, which means, broadly speaking, the moon is like the web weaver. The moon has been long associated, for example, with spiders. And with the moon being a planet whose latitude is always changing, and whose face is always changing, and who's always crisscrossing with the planetary aspects all over the place, that the ancients perceived the moon as the weaver of a web. And the web was the web of life, the story of life as it's unfolding all the time. But that also means when the moon hits its fall in Scorpio, that we go into the trauma of the story, the drama or the trauma. Scorpios get accused sometimes of being dramatic, or that they love trauma or whatever. It's like, no, you have to have some archetype that fits the part of the story where things get interesting, things get spicy. So trauma and old patterns that are complex, chaotic, mysterious, difficult, painful, but life-giving somehow, that's the Scorpio trauma. That's the kind of drama or trauma that Scorpio can bring up. Trauma and old patterns might sound like almost like a messianic or sort of like Christian, like it's like original sin, you have to get over it. But I also mean by trauma and old patterns, I mean the rich, fertile gunk of life. It's not bad any more than mud is bad, you know? So trauma might not be quite the right word, but there it is. Number three, getting to the roots of something. Scorpio full moons with the south node like to get to the bottom of something. I mean, this could lead someone to spy on their, you're dating someone and you steal their phone and, hack into it and try to find all their dirty secrets and ruin your relationship, so you have to be careful because you can be a little paranoid. Like sometimes getting to the roots of something means that you're thinking there's something there that's not. So there can be a little paranoia. But getting to the roots of something is also about, where does this come from? What's at the bottom of it? The unconscious gives you a hint, and then the Scorpio full moon is coming through, and you feel like the need to dive really deep into something, get to the roots of it. Number four is death and impermanence. Just the general theme of things moving on. This is an autumnal sign, a sign that is the deepest deepening of the yin during the solar year. And so when the moon is in that sign in particular, there's a sense of death and impermanence. But that could be very much like the kind of impermanence that if you learn to live with and step into, it gives rise to the kinds of insights that Buddhists and Taoists and sages who enjoy silence have spoken of for thousands of years. So this death and impermanence is not necessarily a bad thing, but it is it's like a deep autumn thing, even though we're in spring, which is an interesting juxtaposition to be going through when the sun is in the sign of Taurus. It was just this juxtaposition that the Buddha was said to be born under, the full moon in Scorpio. So this is there's a contrast between the permanence and stability and peaceful ease and like niceness of life, which Taurus often represents, and the inevitable messy, difficult, impermanent, mysterious, chaotic parts. And those are polarized images that can show up throughout the zodiac in many different forms. We see it again, for example, in Virgo and Pisces, two signs, one that represents order, one that tends to represent romantic chaos, but beauty. So the same polarity can express itself through many different signs in the zodiac. And then number five is the wild feminine. The wild feminine is that feminine that is, there's oftentimes the image that comes to my mind, especially since we're working with black cohosh, is snake medicine.
Yes.
And Ashley's going to talk about that. And it's the serpent is something like dragons that is often playing the villain. But in many cultures around the world, the snake, like the kundalini, is a life-giving energy, and the dragon is a sign of promise, a lot like a dove would be in the biblical story after the flood. Dragons are symbols of renewal, snakes are symbols of renewal. So there's something about that wild feminine element of Scorpio that we really have to pay attention to. It can show up in men, women, any orientation, as the chaotic, destructive, but life-giving potential in anything. And getting close to that rather than polarizing with it is a challenge for Scorpio lunation cycles. This lunation cycle has already featured that. So if you've been feeling any of these things already, that's because this is the blossom that the cycle has been already heading to. So just keep that in mind. Okay, well, those are the five themes, and I'm very happy to have Ashley here to talk about Black Cohosh and why we have been using Black Cohosh in our Roots and Spheres circle, which is a monthly circle that we host where we look at the astrology of the month and we diet a plant teacher. This started in January. It's not too late to join. Go to the website, click on the courses, and if you want to join, you still be glad to have you in the group. So our group has been working with Black Cohosh, and I thought this would be a good time to just give our audience, our broader audience, a little sense of what this group has been up to, what kind of work we've been doing, and why with Black Cohosh and these themes. So Ashley, tell us about Black Cohosh and why this is a good plant for right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think when we were planning out the Roots and Spheres course and we sat down with our, with the chart and the calendar and looked at some of the themes that were going to show up during this lunar cycle with the eclipses and Pluto's entrance and its, what the work that it's doing too. was, black cohosh is also called black snake root. So that image of the snake is really powerful here. And it's a really good opportunity to go a little deeper than maybe we want to. And the eclipses can often be times that are challenging for our psyches. They strip us bare in some ways, and sometimes we can use plants to work to soften the blow of some of the transits. Like if there's a lot of heat and fire, we might want a cooling herb to help us, you know, balance things out. But in this case, I really felt like, this is an opportunity. Let's not miss this opportunity to, rather than try to balance and harmonize that, let's actually go into it. Like, let's use a plant that's going to bring us deeper into the work that the planets are going to present to us. And so black cohosh is that plant. It's one of my favorite herbs. Matthew Wood, one of my teachers, it's one of his favorite herbs because it works on so many levels, but especially on a psychological level. This plant was used by the Native Americans here in North America as a plant for women's issues. And so we might think, a lot of us know of black cohosh for menopause, or it can be used before childbirth to prepare the uterus. But more than just on the female physiology, it works on the feminine archetype. It's a plant that brings us into our deepest feminine aspects and asks us to go a little bit further into maybe where our traumas have been around being a woman, or as a male carrying the feminine in us, because we all have both. But going into that and giving ourselves a safe entrance and exit point. And what black cohosh does, it's kind of like, if you can think of the image of the lotus. We use this a lot in yoga, where the lotus has its roots in the muddy soil underneath the pond, right? But then it grows its way up towards the light, and as it blossoms, it has this perfectly white, flawless, impeccably clean flower. And black cohosh has these black, gnarled roots. They're all tied up. Here's an image of it. If you're watching this on a video, you can see this is a drawing from Matthew Wood about this like very kind of wild, entangled root system that's dark and black. And it grows up and it creates these long, tender stalks that have these beautiful flowers that we're showing in this image here, these racemes that are very angelic-like. They're beautiful, and they're feathery, and they're way lighter than the heaviness found in the roots. And so part of what this medicine does is it untangles. It helps us go into the dark, untangle it, so that we can find the lightness and the levity and inspiration up above in some of the help us find our way through it into a new way of being. And if look at the contrast between the roots and the flowers, and that's the idea of the journey that black cohosh can take us on. I wanted to read this from Matthew Wood's book. He's an herbalist that's local to us. He's a dear friend of both Adam and mine. And this is from his book, Seven Herbs, Plants as Teacher. And he takes us through 7 plants through the journey of the Bible. And black cohosh is the 6th guidepost, and it's related to the story of Jacob. So I just want to read a little bit because I think it really speaks to this. And he quotes here, "Through contention, all things are made manifest." And that was from Heraclitus the Dark. One of the great ironies of spiritual life is that we have to let go of everything we want, Abraham, but grab hold of everything we fear, Jacob. Only in this way can all parts of us be exposed to the cleansing action of the divine. Spiritual life is a matter of letting go and grabbing hold in the right proportion. We have to face the challenges implicit in our lives so that our desires and fears do not rule us. Life is a spiritual battlefield filled with challenges and dangers. And then he goes on about how the story of Isaac and Jacob and how this all plays out. And then he says, fear is tied up with desire. What we want, we fear. Crossing the boundaries of our world is the ultimate desire, while doing so is the ultimate fear. In the story of Jacob, we are shown a complicated field of conflicting passions represented by his interaction with the 2 wives and 2 concubines. And then what he says about black cohosh is, the herb which corresponds to the 6 guideposts is the appropriately named black cohosh, black snakeroot, or black squawfoot. The dark, gnarled root indicates both a dark property and a bristling, contending nature. Black cohosh is a remedy for those who are caught in a state of brooding, dark hopelessness. The patient is entangled in a web of coercive forces against which he fights, but he finds he ultimately cannot defeat. Um, the foliage above ground and the rootlets below are tangled within themselves, indicating the sense of entrapment which overtakes the black cohosh person. And it talks about how, abusive patterns, cycles of trauma that are ancestral and old, very old patterns, this person finds themselves fighting against and contending with. And the journey is to, again, grab a hold of the hope and the fear in the right proportion in order to find your way through. And I think, boy, this eclipse really seems to be bringing forth these themes and presenting us with material by which we can battle. We can go to battle for, and which is going to win. And it doesn't have to be an either or. It's really, I think, in this case, a both and. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. I think just a few little anecdotes. We started working with Black Cohosh while Ashley was helping lead a women's yoga retreat in Costa Rica recently, and I was back home here. And we both sort of started working with Black Cohosh while she was gone. Um, I would say, just putting it simply, I would say that the dreams that I had and the inner experiences that I went through during I had some challenging transits going on too, that those experiences gave me insight into just about every area of my life. But also, Scorpio falls into the house that Scorpio falls in your chart is super important as a part of this cycle. Um, that falls into my seventh in my house of marriage. And Black Cohosh gave me so many insights about, just how can I be a better dad? How can I be a better husband? How can I, just little things that it's easy over time when you're like, Ashley and I have been together for, since 2011, I guess. So it's like 12 years that yeah, 12 years. And it's easy over time to just lose sight of small ways in which you can be better, whether that's as a parent because you get used to your patterns with your kids, or as a spouse, or as an astrologer, or as a family member to your other family members, or whatever. And one of the things that was pretty profound was I had a series of dreams that were like ancestral. And these dreams showed me patterns both in family and marriage that like spread out through like a tapestry of people. And it felt like that gnarl, like the roots of like this, the roots that we're talking about with Black Cohosh and the tangledness of all of it. And then just these very light, beautiful, sort of just crystal clear, simple realizations about small changes that I can make that over time will probably have a really big impact on me and on the people I love, on my family, my wife, my kids. That was really profound for me. I couldn't have appreciated that more. And this is I'm taking 3 drops on my tongue. It's like a drop dose of 3 drops per day before bed, with a little prayer for Black Cohosh to enter the dream space. And it's been, that's been my experience. It's been pretty profound.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because in the Roots and Spheres course so far, one of the other benefits of Black Cohosh is that it helps with pain and muscle pain and rheumatic pain in the joints. Um, and it can help with, hormonal imbalances too. And so a lot of people have been saying not only are they finding some physical relief in their physical bodies, but that they're also being able, because some of those more physical things are being softened, that it's like in the softening of those discomforts, they're able to more safely and feel more safe to go inward. And I think that's really interesting about this plant is I feel like it's a very safe plant. People often think of it as scary, I mean, blacks, cohosh, like it's black snake root, right? And it can have this sort of ominous kind of feel to it. However, it's a very angelic plant. I mean, it's like the dark angel in some way. Ultimately, it's for our own good, but we have to move towards it. We can't, if you're fighting it all the time, if you're fighting the fear, and you don't soften into it a little bit, then you won't get you won't get the answers. And I think
Mm,
that's what I notice in my body when I take this plant is like it kind of, to me, it just says it's okay. Like, go
mhm.
in. You're
Yeah.
safe, you know? And then from that safety, the insights can really roll through.
And this is a plant that's super helpful when we have the drama of a lunar eclipse coming through in Scorpio. All of the main things I talked about today, from the wild feminine, which black cohosh can also help people tap into, um, death and impermanence, getting to the roots of things,
Mhm.
catharsis. These are all things that I feel like black cohosh just it again, it's kind of like it's going to help you go into it, but not in the sense of it like being like, okay, let's get on a roller coaster. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
not going to like intensify the drama as much as it is going to. To me, it feels like there's, oh, someone's giving me a flashlight while I'm going through the woods.
Yes, like a torch. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. And that's like that image of that raceme, that tall stalk with the white. It's like, okay, carry this torch through the dark. Like, I've got you. I'm here with you. And I think that that's such a great, it's such a great medicine during dark times. And I think a lot of people, I just keep hearing it again and again from people is like, I'm having a really hard time, you know?
yeah,
And what a better ally to have is someone who says, I've been through the dark. I
yeah.
know exactly what you're going through. And I'm here with some lightness, and I'm here to help you untangle it. And I'm here to help you heal from it.
Hmm.
And that's a gift of this plant. And it's interesting because Matthew talks about, in homeopathy, you have kind of particular kind of personality types, and so sort of the dark, moody, broody, kind of that scorpionic type. Really seems to benefit even more. I mean, I'm not the dark, moody, broody type, but I'm still getting the part of me that is that is getting help, is getting support. But for those who really live in that world more often and are really struggling, it's like, I mean, it's a really powerful helper.
Yeah, and I think it can also. I think there's an element of it, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if people have that part of themselves a little repressed too,
Yes.
that it could actually help to bring out some of the, um, like you mentioned in our roots and spheres class, for example, that black cohosh sometimes will help a woman, just like turn the lights down low by herself and start moving,
Yeah. Yeah, that snake-like movement present in our bodies, both male and female bodies, that feminine energy. One of the exercises I recommended was take this plant, take a warm bath, and then roll around on the ground and just see what it is that the animal of your body loves, as Mary Oliver, one of my favorite poets, says, like,
Mm.
let the animal of your body love what it loves. And I think that this time and space and this plant opens that up to being safe and okay to explore those very wild feminine places. And it doesn't mean that, you're wrong or bad or shameful, or that it has to go anywhere that is um you know is
You're not like consenting to or okay with.
exactly. Yeah, it'll only take you as far as you're going to go because it's in your body, and then you get to
Mhm.
make those choices.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but that's a
yeah.
really good point, and I think, and as Adam said, you don't have to take a lot to work with this medicine. It's a strong one. So 1 drop maybe if you're like, not sure, but I recommend 3. I think 3 that's what Matthew Wood uses. That's my typical dose to let and you'll taste it. It's acrid, it's bitter. I mean, it cuts it you when you take it as a tincture, and that's the way. I don't take it as a powder, don't make a tea. Take it as a tincture, which is an alcohol-based extract. And if you don't drink alcohol, or your lifestyle, or if you're in recovery, you can take the tincture, put it in some warm water to evaporate the alcohol and drink it. But you need to taste it. You need to get that taste on your tongue to start to get everything to wake up and to start moving the energy.
I agree. There's something about the way that the bitterness hits you that is also how this beautiful spirit is entering.
Yeah. And
So
Matthew
it's
Wood
that's
says, he
important.
says it's like, or the way that I've seen it is, how when dogs wrestle and then they're done wrestling, they'll shake.
Yeah.
So when you take an acrid medicine that has that sort of really sharp taste, you kind of shudder a little bit. And
Yeah,
that's
you
how you
just
get like, ugh.
yeah.
And you'll see people do that. My friend Allie took it. She was giving me a video. She's like, I got my black cohosh. She took a video of it and she's like, oh, oh. And I was like, that's the medicine though. We gotta we gotta shake a little bit and that loosens things up. And this plant is a great whiplash remedy too. For moving, it really acts on the crystalline cerebrospinal fluid that runs up and down the spine. That's like, if you open up the spine, if you've ever seen cerebrospinal fluid, it looks like starlight. So it works on that starlight fluid in the spine and it unkinks it. So
Yeah.
it's a really good one to do if you're doing craniosacral therapy, if you've had neck injury or whiplash, things like that. It'll start to move that fluid in a way that will give you more freedom and more access.
Think again of this as the cerebral spinal starlight fluid pointing upward, right?
Yes,
It matches with that idea.
absolutely.
Yeah, well, we love plant medicine as astrologers for thousands of years because the doctrine of signatures and the basic hermetic theory of correspondences is how herbalists have always been at work, and it's always how astrologers have been at work. You look at plants, we look at stars, but then they end up getting paired together. The earliest, I think it was on the island of Kos, that there was the first astrological school that we know of, and it was neighbor to an herbal school. And so the likelihood, that herbal medicine has been, well, we know very early on in the, early Hellenistic era, we know that astrology and herbs were being paired together, but it's
Mhm.
probably the case that from the inception of astrology, herbal medicine and astrology have been used concurrently. So it's really a joy to have you here because I know that everyone is going to really enjoy just hearing about the lunar eclipse and this plant teacher. You can get black cohosh. I mean, at our co-op, you can pick up a tincture of black cohosh. So usually, if you have like a local co-op or something, you can order a tincture of black cohosh on Amazon. Is there any other trusted providers that you would recommend?
Yeah, Mountain Rose Herbs is another kind of really easy to access and affordable site where you can buy herbal medicine. I also really like Herb Farm, Pharm. They're based out of Oregon. They make a really nice black cohosh tincture. And then Herbalist and Alchemist, which is David Winston's company based out of New Jersey. They have really good black cohosh as well. So those are some additional sites. And yeah, I mean, I think as I said before, the tincture is really going to be your best bet for this type of work.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, well, it has been awesome to have you here to talk about black cohosh. We hope that everybody listening to this, if you are wanting to work a little bit more intentionally and deeply with this eclipse and want to, try black cohosh, um, the last thing that I want to ask Ashley is if there are any, contraindications or things that people should be aware of, people who shouldn't take black cohosh. We don't want to just tell people to go take medicine because we're not providing any kind of medical advice. This is, and we have to say this on YouTube, this is just for entertainment purposes.
Mhm.
But that being said, just to be safe, because we're just trying to give people information here, what, you know, should people who are pregnant take this? And also we're talking about 3 drops on your tongue as
Yeah,
something that is
yeah.
very, very, very minor. So although very few people are going to be affected by it, what should people know to be careful about?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, I mean, really to get like a therapeutic dose to push estrogen levels or to create larger therapeutic actions, you would need more like a teaspoonful of the herb regularly. To affect one menstrual cycle, you'd have to take it for 2 months. So here
Yeah.
we're really talking about just a very small dose and for a short period of time, really for the next maybe 3 weeks. So
It's a spiritual dose, you could
it's a
call it, like a,
spiritual yeah,
yeah.
energetic dose and not a therapeutic dose. However, if you want to be really safe, one thing is if you're pregnant or breastfeeding, this herb is used in pregnancy, but usually in the third trimester to help prepare for labor. So, you know, for me, as when I was pregnant with my girls, I just was like, I just want my body, like, I did a lot of nettles and a lot of chamomile, but other than that, I just was like, I didn't know. So that might be a place, if you're pregnant, you might wanna say, maybe not this cycle,
Yeah.
and you can,
Pregnant
some
or
people like to
breastfeeding, right?
just hold it. You can hold it in your hand or look at pictures of it or study it. That's another way to just, and read Matthew Wood's Seven Herbs as Plant Teacher's book to engage with it. But I think, yeah, I mean, there are, the estrogenic properties are not going to really be affected in that small dose.
Yeah, you're literally talking again like 3 drops a day before, on your tongue, and that kind of energetic dose shouldn't really affect people. But you should ask your doctor or if you have any questions or concerns before taking any kind of herb or any kind of supplement or anything. I hope you all understand we have to say that because we're on YouTube and we're not doctors. So
Yes.
anyway, it's been really nice to hear about Black Cohosh today and to talk about the lunar eclipse in Scorpio. We hope that for all of you out there going through this, that you'll find this supportive and that you're doing okay. Feel free to share your stories. If you have any stories you want to tell, you can always use the hashtag grabbed or email us your story, grabbed@nightlightastrology.com. If you're like, hey, that Roots and Spheres course sounds interesting, go over to nightlightastrology.com, click on the courses tab, go down to Roots and Spheres. If you want to pop in and join us, not too late. You could join in on, so I think we're, still have quite a few lunation cycles left in the year, so you're welcome to still join us if you'd like. And any questions that you have about absolutely anything involving Roots and Spheres or anything else, email us, info@nightlightastrology.com. Ashley, thank you again so much for being here today. We love having you, and we'll have to have you back soon.
Thank you so much. And just one little shameless plug
Yeah.
is, if you want to follow me, I am on YouTube as well at Sky House Herbs. So if you want to learn more about plants and hear more about energetic dosing and therapeutic effects of plants, you can follow me and subscribe to my channel, Sky House Herbs. And I'll be teaching a bunch this summer at different conferences. And if you go to my website, skyhouseherbs.com, then you can look at the events and see the teaching engagements where I'll be. And Adam will be with me in Colorado. Yay! We're going to bring our family to the Good Medicine Confluence in Colorado near Lake George. So you can join us for that. I'll be teaching 3 classes on plant spirit medicine and other classes on plant medicine. So I just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you for that that
That's
space.
not a shameless plug. That's my failure because I always promote whoever comes on my channel. I always plug their stuff and promote it, and that was
That's
just
okay.
misfire on my part. At Sky House Herbs on YouTube is Ashley's YouTube channel. She makes regular herbal content, so be sure to check that out. You can see she's an awesome teacher. You'll really like her stuff. Skyhouseherbs.com is the website, so you can also check out what she's up to there and the conference that she was just talking about and stuff like that. Sorry, that was
It's all good.
that was my bad. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. We hope you have a great rest of your day, and we will see you again tomorrow. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.